Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Welcome to the B Channel podcast, where my objective is to bless, edify, and encourage others to live their best lives. And today's topic is fear, something that we all probably have struggled with from time to time. And my guest is Violet Coots. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Violet Coots from Violet Coots Coaching, and I am so honored to be here with you today. So, let me tell you a little bit about me.
Sure, whatever you would like to share.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a mom and a grandmother. Those are my highlights. I'm a widow, uh, but I'm also a life coach. After 40 years in the insurance business, God called me out of the insurance industry and to become a life coach. And so that's what I'm doing currently, and I very much enjoy working with individuals.
Okay, everybody, let's give her a round of applause for showing up to share with us. So, today I want to start off with let's take it way back. What were you taught about fear growing up?
Well, you know how they say hindsight's 2020, right?
Mhm.
So, during growing up, as a child and everything, I don't think I realized that I was being taught fear. But as I got, as an adult looking back and everything, one of the things that I thought was taught, or I picked up at least, which is very major, is I had an unhealthy fear of God. And so that definitely has been big and affected me in a lot of different ways. Then the other, though, I think a lot of it has come through being taught people pleasing. And what I mean by that is that, you know, my parents were older when I was born, and they didn't drive, and so we were dependent. My mom was dependent on someone taking her where she needed to go, or going, and so there were a lot of times that she agreed to, somebody said, "How can you do this? Can you keep my kids, or can you?" And she would say, she would agree to do that, even though she might not even feel like it. And but it came back to, well, I might need them to do something for me. And so looking back, I realized that in and of itself was part of my background of, well, I might need somebody to do something for me, so I need to then do something for them. So then that meant I was people pleasing and fear of speaking up or fear of saying no. So a lot of fear.
Yes, that's so funny because I just recorded an episode on this very topic of people pleasing recently. That's going to be coming out, in 2026. They were recording this in September of 2025. So look out for that, everybody. Because I really think it is an issue that we come across. I think just at large in the body of Christ, we feel like we can't have boundaries and say no. But
Hmm.
even Jesus had boundaries. He went away to pray. He went away to eat. He went away to sleep. So I
Yeah.
think it's so important to learn how to say no, because if you're loving from a place of burnout, it's going to feel like a burden instead of feeling like loving from a place of abundance is more of a blessing to you,
Yeah.
and you're more of a blessing when you can love from a full place rather than
Yeah.
just out of depletion. And so I think that's something that we all really have to work on and work through. And it's so interesting because we don't realize it, but we are sponges when we are around our parents and the people that are in our lives. So what they're doing is modeling for us what we think that we should do. We're just looking at their example. So I think that's why we have to learn to give ourselves grace too when we look at what our parents did, because they were only working with the information that they had at the time.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't that my mom was trying to teach me to people please. She was just, living life, and that's what I got from that. That's part of what I caught from that. So it wasn't even I think a known thing that it was happening for her or me. So
Right. It's about that's the thing too, like you said, you caught like it's like it's not so much what you teaching, it's what people are catching. And like you as children, you learn to be very observant, like, maybe this is something that I should do, or this is something I shouldn't do. So it really depends on like, your level of awareness. And when you're younger, you're like, hey, that's my mom. And then also from her perspective, it's like it could be like survival mode,
yes, yeah,
you doing what you have to survive. And I'm learning like it's important to not really do something with the expectation, because you're going to end up disappointed. So do it because you want to do it, and not because they're going to necessarily do something bad. And try to
yeah,
keep a record of rights versus wrongs, because otherwise it could get into this space like, oh, they did this and I did that, or they didn't do this so I didn't do that, and it gets exhausting.
yeah.
So
Yes.
that's why that whole thing doesn't really work, right?
Right, right, yeah. We're being programmed whether we know it or not, just by, again, by actions, by what's being said. Just like I mentioned that, I had an unhealthy fear of God. And, it was just the way certain things was presented, and, just different stories in the Bible that, it just, a couple of different ones, how Moses, he's led the Israelites and everything, and he done all of this, and then he struck that rock that time instead of speaking to it, and then he didn't go into the promised land, and I was like, in my little mind, again, subconsciously, apparently, I mean, it wasn't anything I really thought of and was like contemplated on, but it was like, oh, if I mess up, that God's up there waiting for me to mess up, and he's going then to punish me. And so, and when you got that kind of fear of God, that unhealthy, unrealistic fear of God, then that messes with your whole system. You
Yes, yes, yes. It really does. And I think it's so important what you said about like our perception of God, because he's multifaceted. And then I think that as I've grown, I come to understand that even with the consequences, there was love in the consequences, because
know,
he wants you to know like how far you can go, because God has boundaries too. So in light of that, how has your relationship with God helped you to overcome fear as you've gotten older?
well, very, very much so, because the Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. And so as he's drawn me to him, and I started really uncovering, that, and he worked with me on this fear, and that, okay, no, this was unhealthy. This is not who he is. He wasn't out, he's not setting up there just to strike me down. And I know that might sound crazy to some people, but that's kind of the way that's how I really felt. But again, getting closer to him, then that's trust. Then I can learn to trust him. And as I'm learning to trust him, and then I'm been able to receive, from him more. And through that, then it's really that, you know, truth cast out fear. God is, Jesus is truth. And so developing my relationship with him then has helped to uncover the lies that I've been believing, and and then being able to replace them with truth of his word, and that, he's there, he does love me, he protects us, he's got us. And so that relationship has then, of course, as much as more than really, you got a bad relationship or that wrong perspective and how it affected negatively, then when you get that right perspective and everything, then that can, then that has affected positively.
Right. It's so true, because sometimes we do think about him like that tyrant in the sky and everything like that. And if I don't do the right thing, but it's like that in itself is exhausting too, because it's like he wants to love us. And I was reading this book, and the lady was saying that you it was called, I think it was called a reckless, it's called a reckless a introvert's reckless attempt to love her neighbor. And so what she was saying was that we have to learn to give God our heart and not take it back, and
Yeah.
just trust him with our heart and everything like that. And I feel like that's what you're trying to say too. And also like the on the flip side of that, just to kind of go back for a moment, how has fear held you back?
Well, what I learned and, or discovered and knew, but really as you, again, looking back and contemplating, I mean, fear kept me. I didn't go to college because of fear. I didn't, it's done so much. I have not done things or attempted things that I wanted to because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of, what is somebody going to say. And so, unfortunately, for too many years of my life, fear really did kind of more or less rule my life. And, decisions was made on the fear. And so I wouldn't step out and I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't take those chances that maybe I wouldn't speak up. And so unfortunately, it had a very bad effect on my life for many, many years.
Yeah, and I think that that's the gift that God gives us, is the ability to have boldness and to just really learn to speak with the truth, with grace and love and all that. Because sometimes we think if we tell somebody something, like it has to be harsh or whatever, or we're wrong for saying how we feel. But you can say how you feel. It's just about how you say it, how you
Right,
deliver it. And I think that's so crucial too, like what you were saying, like it's so many different ways, it's multifaceted how it can affect you. And like you can be scared of people, scared of what they say, scared of what will happen, scared of what won't happen. And it's just so much, like, and it's really helpful though when you read the Bible, because you can see, oh, these other people, they were scared too, but they leaned on God and he helped them.
yeah, yes. And that's important. And you know again, when we really see fear, that it in some ways, and I don't mean this harshly, but it's lack of trusting God. So it's like, so again, if we work on that relationship with God and really knowing who He is, then we can say, okay, then I can trust that. And one of the things I talk about a lot, anymore, is exposing the fear factor, because under so many things, under so many lies that we believe, there's some type of fear. There's that, I mentioned, fear of rejection and everything. But when we look at that, and our minds kind of get programmed to say, if we had attempted to do something and then we got rejected, or it didn't work out and we got embarrassed, then we go to do something again, our minds just say, oh, that's not safe. How that happened before. And then we'll shy away. But if it's like, wait, let's learn from this, let's take this and flip the script on it, and let's learn. Did that happen? Did maybe I get embarrassed? Yeah. Did the world end? No. Did I die? No. Yeah. And then it's like, we can actually take that then, and like I said, flip the script on it, learn from that. And the more we overcome that fear, one, the bolder we're going to get, and the more, we step out in courage, we can be, more courageous. And it's not that maybe there's not some fear there. It's just that our faith will build and be stronger than the fear.
Right. And I was listening to this other young lady that I like to listen to. Her name is Dr. Tama. And she was talking about confidence. And I felt like it was so interesting that she was saying that it's about doing something, like understanding that you might mess up but still willing to try something new anyway. And I think that that's like a part of the problem with fear, is that it does kind of like steal your confidence, and it kind of makes you shrink and dim your light and all the things. Like it's a thief. Fear is really a thief when you really boil it
Yeah.
down, because it's so many things. And then it's like when you go through something, like, I lost my father last October. And so that kind of made me realize that fear is really a thief, because like you were saying, with just like trying something again or being rejected, you're
Mhm.
like, okay, you got to reframe this thing.
Right.
You got to think about it differently. And also, it's important to note that just because somebody has fear, we always talk about faith versus fear, but just because somebody has fear doesn't mean that they don't have faith.
That's
It's
right.
just that the faith is placed in the wrong place.
Yes. That's right.
So, and then you
Yeah.
can still be have fear and still love God and still believe that He's going to be there, but it's just these moments of trepidation, um, and just being human, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot. You got to constantly work through that for the rest of your life. That's what I feel like. And sometimes you feel like it's gonna be this one moment where you just kind of get over it. You just don't have any fear anymore. But it's just like you said, step by step, day by day. Keep doing something, like doing things that scare you, of course, with wisdom, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's healthy fear. I mean, I want my grandkids to have some fear of, so that they don't go out and play in the road.
Right,
We don't want to step out in front of moving cars and stuff. So there's good fear. God designed that, and there's good fear. But when we get it out of whack, and of course that's what the enemy likes to do. He wants to twist us. Get everything twisted up. And so there's that good stuff that we need, so that if we're standing by a rattlesnake, we need to have some fear there, and get away from it, and not try to pet it.
right.
So there is that. But when the enemy gets in there and twists it, then it gets out of proportion. And but we, like you said, we reframe. That's what the Bible talks about, too. Take our thoughts captive, and so that we can take those thoughts captives. We's like, okay, is this true? Is this not true? Does this line up with God's word? What does God say about it? And then when we can replace the lies and the fear with truth, then that's when we're transformed. And I think that builds our faith. That gives us more courage. And so then that's when we can say, no, we're overcoming our fear. We're overcoming our fear, instead of letting our fear overcome us.
Yes, and I think that that's so crucial what you said, because it's like it's a daily process, and also like using God's word as the filter,
Hmm.
and understanding that like fear is like a chance to just kind of process and see what this information is telling us about, like let's like check in with ourselves, like our inner
Yeah,
selves, what's going on in our inner world, what's going on in our heart,
yeah,
instead of just jumping to this conclusion that doesn't make sense because you don't have information to support that. Like my
right.
dad used to say, is fear is false evidence appearing real.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yes. And that's why, when fear comes up, and if we take that moment and say, wait a minute, where did I learn this? Where was the first time I felt fear? What caused that? What was that situation? And then again, go back to reframe it. And then, even ask Jesus, Jesus, where were you in this? What are you telling me about this? What is the truth? We have the Holy Spirit in us. If we're born again, then we've got the Holy Spirit in us, and He's there to help us through that. And so we can ask those questions, but we've got to take the time. We've got to take just that pause for a minute, and realize that, hey, we're okay. God's got us, and just, where did this come from? And look at it, capture it, you know, replace it, and with truth, and move forward. And when we do that again, that encourages us. That gives us more for the next time that something pops up and we want to be afraid. It's like, no, I've faced this. I've faced fear before. I've faced situation. I can do those hard things, or I know this is a lie.
yeah, and that's crucial what you say. I want to circle back to something you said before at the beginning about the you had a wrong perception of the fear of God. Just for everybody out there, it's important to understand that fear of God doesn't mean we're afraid of him. It means that we have a reverential awe and respect for him and esteem for who he is and his
Mhm.
position as opposed to our position, us being humans and him being God, the creator of the universe. So it's important that we understand we have that respect for him. And that's why we fear him, but it's not fear in terms of, oh my gosh, I'm scared. He's a place of safety. And that's
Right.
what fear is sometimes, is feeling a lack of safety.
Yes, yeah. And to that, I mean, I did have, when I say I had that wrong perspective, and I mean, I had an actual fear. I was afraid of God because I had the wrong information. you know,
Hmm.
I had that wrong information. I had, this wrong perception. But yes, when the awe of God is what, that's what we need. That's what we're supposed to have, and everything. And when we really understand that, like you said, He is our safe place. He is our strong tower. He is all those things, that, that He says that is there for protection and provision, and even discipline. Let's not leave out, because if we're anybody who's a parent, we love our kids. We don't want them to be afraid of us, but at the same time, there are times that discipline is required, and as you said before, it's for the benefit. So you grow and everything.
Yes, and like I think when you're young, it's kind of like you say, like with a parent and a child. When you're young, you don't understand, but then as you get older, you're like, oh, that's what that was about. There wasn't them being mean or them trying to scare me. They just want me to have an appropriate view of things and have put things in perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Perspective means a lot.
that's the hard part about it though. When you're young, you're like, I don't know. And then, you go through some things and you're like, okay, I got you. And then even things like losing your earthly parent though, you'd be like, okay, I know you did what was in my best interest. Because if not, I know what I would have done with the rest of my life is just be there. And you want more from me than that. So, in order for me to have more, you have to kind of just take that person so that I can branch out and do more because he knows us. That's the thing about God.
Mhm.
He knows us and what we're going to do. So sometimes he has to move you in such a way, even if it means you're going to be a little bit off course for a minute. He's
Right.
going to move you in such a way where it's like, you know what, child, I have to do something that's for your own good,
Yeah.
even though you don't like it, even though this is your comfort zone. I have to do something that's going to force you, that's going to catapult you, propel you to something else, to another place. Because as it says in Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 2, you've been going around this mountain for too long. So
Yeah.
now it's time to go somewhere else. And that's a scary thing, but even then, I say he's the God of even then and the God of even now. Because
Yeah.
even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, even now, as Mary said about Lazarus, even now I know you're going to do what's the right thing. So
Right.
it's like just knowing that that you know,
Yeah.
even in the dark times, even in the fearful moments, God's got you.
Yep. That's true. I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's a teacher sometimes too. It's like, okay, all right, now you walk through that. Like you said, it's about his track record. When
Hmm.
you look at his track record, it inspires you to have gratitude, and
Yes.
that can override some of the fear. Like, okay, didn't I go somewhere last week and you brought me back
Right.
home safely and soundly? Didn't I pray for comfort and you sent that?
Yeah.
Didn't I have to worry about food today?
Right.
So just remembering who he is, and it's like, oh, okay, I can relax a little bit.
Yes. Yep. Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's just so important. So, um, just to move off of that, or do you have any projects or any events that you would like to share with the audience?
I'm currently working on a thing called Exposing the Fear Factor. It's a coaching program and stuff to walk people through some of these things that they are, that they are fearing. And so I've got that in the process, and so that's good. And then I also have a a like a 3 session uh, program, I guess, if you want to call it a program, but a 3 session offer that I have, and it's called a heart reset. And it's just really I like that, because sometimes, we need to just process through some things with somebody, and say some of this, again, kind of getting started on what does this even look like, and how can that help me? And sometimes just a little tweak. Sometimes all we need is a little tweak. It's like, oh yes, that's all it was, and stuff. So, but that's all. That's what I've got going on right now, and stuff. So, and yeah.
Do you have any longer term packages? Because there might be some of us out there that
Oh yeah.
listen and watching and be like, I don't know about 3 times. I might need about 12 sessions.
Yes, yes. And what I encourage everyone to do is to just, they can get on a free call with me,
Mhm,
because I don't like just a cookie cutter thing. We're all different.
mhm,
And so, I offer a free call to everyone, and to see kind of where they are, what they're needing. And so, and I basically tailor make the packages for the person. So I've worked with people with on 3 months and 6 months, and so yes, I've got multiples going on as far as that goes. But because I like to tailor make them for you individually, because although we're a lot alike in a lot of ways, we're all at different places in our lives, and
mhm.
we've all had different experiences, and so we're not just all one size fits all.
Right. And that's so important because I know for myself, like I was walking through the grief process this year and the bereavement counseling, and I was sitting there to myself like, okay, this is the time frame I have, and then that's it. And then the lady has been just so kind to be like, I know you might need X, Y, and Z. So for this period of time you can still do this. And I'm like, that's been a godsend.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was really like thinking about. And when you were saying it like the three, I'm like, oh yeah, like just it's so important to have that customized experience where the person can say, well, this is what I've been walking through, or this is what I kind of need right now, to be able to speak on that and have that kind of advocacy in that
Yeah.
moment. And because sometimes you're like, okay, well, this is all there is. I guess you're just going to say bye.
No, no, no. And anyone I'm working with, there's always the option of continuing that that relationship. And like I said, I've just always been, even in my, even when I was in insurance for all the years and stuff, I worked with people on employee benefits and stuff. And it's like there's not a one size fits all. We're all
Right.
different, and that's one thing I always like to do is personalize it, individualize it, and personalize it.
That's so beautiful. So I would like to remind the audience how we can connect with you. So please share that with us right now.
Yes, so the best way to connect, you can get to my calendar and everything, and that's on my website, which is www.violetcoots.com. And you can get on there, you can get on my calendar. And like I said, I offer, just a free consultation, that we can talk and say, hey, because, I don't want to, I want to work with people that we mesh, if you will.
Mhm.
And there's, like you mentioned about grief counseling, I've been through grief. I've lost my spouse, and my parents have been gone a long time, but that's not my specialty. That's,
Right.
you want somebody that's what they who's going to fit and do the best for you. And so that's why I always like to have a conversation. And it's like, if I can help you and we can work together, that's wonderful. And if it's like, no, that's not what I need, or I can say, oh, I know, I have a friend that works
Right.
doing this, and let me connect you with them, because it's really about what's best for the individual.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing too, to have the networking capability to be able to say that too, and
Yes.
direct people where they need to go. Because I love that you say that, because sometimes it's like people think, oh, they just have to like go along to get along, or just because somebody's doing something, like, no, this it might not be a fit. It's important to have a conversation to see how you mesh, and just so you can say, hey, is this going to work, or maybe I need to go another direction, and no hard feelings about it. So that's a beautiful thing that you take the time to say, hey, do we
Yeah.
fit or we not fit? And let me send you
Right.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that's important.
Yes. So, like Violet said, you can find her, catch up with all things Violet Coots at www.violetcoots.com. And don't worry, this is on the screen if you're watching, but if you happen to be listening, this tea will be in the description of this podcast. So don't worry about missing out on any of that. You can find all her info down in the description of this podcast on YouTube and on Spotify and everywhere else you're listening. So don't y'all worry about that. Um, and also, um, I would like for you to plant a seed for the listeners. Just share whatever's on your heart. Anything that you would like to share about this topic. If there was one thing that you want the people to take away about fear, what would that be? Just speak from the heart. Just say what you feel like God is leading you to say.
I would say that, um, as you mentioned earlier, I think you said your dad said fear is false evidence appearing real. We have real fears, especially in our mind. But when we will face our fear, then that's when we can take the power away from it. And so if we're running from it, then it's got power over us. But when we stop and say, no, I'm going to face this, then I would say, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself, and you are worth it to face those fears. And I'm not saying that that's can always be easy, that it's always easy, because sometimes it's not, but it will always be worth it, because when you get a grip on that and you're like, no, I have the power. I have the power, and you do. Each person, you have the power, and so you just take that power away from fear, and you use that power, and know that you can. You do have it in you. You do have it in you to do that, and it is possible to come out of those fears. And and I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, from someone who lived and let fear rule her life for too many years. Then I'm hoping that start earlier, but it's never too late either. It's never too late. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you've got something that you're fearing, that it's like, oh, it's too late. And no, it's not. You can take that fear captive. We can work on that, replace that, and you can live, by overcoming that fear.
Right. And that's so crucial what you said. And I like to say what this guy I listened to on the radio here. He says, as long as you're breathing, you got a shot.
That's
And
right.
it's so important. And just to reiterate, in case we did not highlight, what kind of coach are you again? What did you tell us?
I'm a freedom coach. I don't know if I said it or not, but I'm a freedom coach. And so, because and what I do is I want to help people to get free of those fears, get free of fear, guilt, shame, the things that are holding them back, and not
Mhm.
just for a moment, but to both get free from it and then learn how to stay free, to maintain your freedom. And so to
Okay,
walk it
that
out.
sounds like Galatians 5:1.
Yeah,
Get free and stay free. Don't submit again to a yoke of slavery.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I like that. That's really powerful. Freedom coach, y'all. She's a freedom coach. She wants to help you get free and stay free. So remember that when you think about Violet, she's gonna help you to get the victory. Violet's gonna help you get the victory
That's
from
right.
fear
That's right.
and live from a place of victory, not for victory.
That's right. Yep.
So remember that, everybody, and just thank you so much, Violet, for taking the time to join me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
You're welcome. And so thank everybody for listening or watching, whichever one you decided to do today. I just want to take this time to remind everybody, if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let us know what you think about this episode. And if you would like more content on this topic or anything else, let us know. We need your feedback just to know what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing, what you like, what you don't like. That's important because we're not just making it and, want to throw it into the void. We want to know what you think. And if you're listening over on Spotify, feel free to follow, participate in today's poll and comment so you have choices whether you're watching or listening. You can interact, you can engage. So let us know what you think about today's show. And last but not least, make sure you follow me at bchannel27 on all social media platforms for more content just like this. You can follow me at Instagram. That's the best place to find me. I tell y'all what's going on with the stories, the blogs, whatever's going on with me, podcasts, whatever. So, thank y'all so much again for tuning in, watching. I appreciate your time and your energy, and peace and blessings. Until next time.